America leads the world with 902 billionaires as of 2025, a number that continues climbing as you watch this video. But here's what makes this fascinating. Only 50 of these ultra-wealthy individuals can claim the title of richest person in their state. These aren't just people with money. We're talking about individuals who built business empires that reshape entire industries, control supply chains across continents, and wield influence that extends far beyond their home states. Some names will be instantly recognizable from headlines and Forbes covers. Others will surprise you completely. Billionaires who quietly built massive fortunes in industries you never considered, in states you wouldn't expect. We're ranking all 50 states from the smallest billionaire fortune to wealth, so staggering it becomes almost impossible to comprehend. What you'll discover is that even the smallest fortunes on this list represent wealth that most people can barely imagine. The bottom 5, where even billions feel small. Let's start with the bottom 5 positions, where even having over $1 billion barely gets you noticed on the national stage. Starting at position 50, we find Montana's Dennis Washington, whose $1.1 billion fortune came from construction and mining operations that most coastal billionaires would never consider. Washington began with a single bulldozer in 1964, building his Missoula-based company by taking on projects that required working in remote locations and harsh conditions. His Washington companies now operates mines, railroads, and marine transportation services across the Northwest. The geographic isolation that makes Montana unappealing to many businesses became Washington's competitive advantage. He faced minimal competition for major infrastructure projects and resource extraction opportunities. Position 49 belongs to Wyoming's John Mars, worth $1.3 billion through his stake in the candy empire Mars Incorporated. While Mars is a household name globally, John Mars chose to base his operations in Wyoming, taking advantage of the state's business-friendly tax environment and low operational costs. His wealth stems from the global success of brands like M&M's, Snickers, and Twix. But his decision to maintain significant operations in Wyoming demonstrates how the right location can preserve more of a fortune than operating in high-tax states. Moving to position 48, we encounter Maine's Susan Alfond, whose $1.4 billion fortune originated from Dexter Shoe Company, which her family sold to Berkshire Hathaway in 1993. The transaction, paid entirely in Berkshire Hathaway stock, turned what could have been a regional shoe business exit into a massive fortune as Berkshire's stock price soared over the following decades. Alfond's wealth showcases how timing and payment structure can transform a successful regional business into generational wealth. Position 47 features Rhode Island's Jonathan Nelson, worth $1.5 billion through his private equity firm Providence Equity Partners. Nelson built his fortune by focusing on media and communications investments, often targeting companies that larger private equity firms overlooked due to their smaller size or regional focus. His strategy of being a larger player in a smaller market allowed him to secure better deals and maintain more control over his investments than he could have achieved competing against megafunds in major markets. At position 46, we find Vermont's John Abel, whose $1.6 billion fortune came from co-founding Boston Scientific, a medical device company. Abel's wealth demonstrates how choosing the right business partner and focusing on a specific market niche can create enormous value. Boston Scientific became dominant in minimally invasive medical devices, a field that required specialized knowledge and regulatory expertise that created high barriers to entry for competitors. These bottom 5 billionaires share several common strategies that differ dramatically from the approaches we'll see higher up the rankings. First, they focused on industries or markets where competition was limited, either by geography, specialized knowledge, or regulatory barriers. Second, they often chose business locations that provided operational advantages rather than prestige, saving millions in costs while maintaining the same revenue potential. Third, they built their wealth through steady, consistent growth rather than explosive scaling. The geographic advantage these billionaires enjoy extends beyond just lower costs. operating in smaller states often means having direct access to governors, senators, and other key decision-makers who can influence business conditions. A billionaire in Wyoming has far more political influence per dollar spent than a billionaire in California or New York, where they compete with dozens of other ultra-wealthy individuals for attention and access. What's particularly striking about these fortunes is how they were built through traditional business models that required decades of patient capital building. Washington spent 40 years growing his construction business one project at a time. The Mars fortune was built over generations through consistent product development and market expansion. These weren't overnight successes or viral business models. They required sustained execution over decades. The industries represented in this bottom tier also reveal opportunities that exist outside the technology and finance sectors that dominate higher rankings. Mining, construction, food production, and medical devices all created billion-dollar fortunes through solving practical problems and serving established markets. These businesses often have higher barriers to entry than technology companies, but they also face less disruption risk. The tax advantages of operating in these states also compound over time. States like Wyoming, Montana, and others offer significant tax benefits that allow these billionaires to keep more of their wealth while reinvesting in business growth. Over decades, these savings can amount to hundreds of millions of dollars compared to operating in high-tax jurisdictions. What makes these positions particularly interesting is how stable they tend to be. Unlike technology fortunes that can fluctuate dramatically based on stock prices or market sentiment, these wealth positions are built on tangible assets and established businesses with predictable cash flows. A mining operation or candy company is unlikely to lose 50% of its value overnight the way a tech stock might. The businesses these billionaires built also tend to be more recession-resistant than luxury or technology companies. People still need construction work, medical devices, and candy even during economic downturns. This stability allows these billionaires to maintain their wealth and even acquire distressed assets from competitors during tough economic times. Perhaps most importantly, these billionaires prove that massive wealth doesn't require operating in major metropolitan areas or hot technology sectors. By identifying underserved markets, building operational advantages, and executing consistently over decades, they've created fortunes that would place them among the wealthiest individuals in most countries worldwide. But here's where the story gets more interesting. While these bottom-tier billionaires often inherited family businesses or had educational advantages, the next group of state champions built their empires from circumstances that would shock you. The self-made surprise stories. Positions 41 through 45 showcase billionaires who transformed disadvantaged starting points into massive fortunes through pure determination and market insight. At position 45, we find Frank Vandersloot of Idaho, worth $3.1 billion, who grew up running his family's farm while his father worked for the railroad. Vandersloot's childhood was defined by early morning chores and constant worry about whether the farm would generate enough income to survive another season. After high school, he worked various jobs while attending college, including selling vacuum cleaners door-to-door and working construction during summers. The turning point came when he discovered multi-level marketing and saw an opportunity to build a business around wellness products that people actually needed and would reorder consistently. Vandersloot founded Melaleuca in 1985, focusing on creating safer, more effective household and personal care products. The company's breakthrough came when he developed a unique customer loyalty program that turned buyers into long-term subscribers rather than one-time purchasers. This subscription model created predictable revenue streams that allowed Melaleuca to reinvest in product development and expansion. Today, the company produces over 450 wellness, nutrition, and cleaning products with more than 1 million customers ordering monthly. Vandersloot also owns over 148,000 acres across Idaho, Utah, and Montana, demonstrating how business success enabled him to acquire the land he grew up working on. Position 44 belongs to Glenn Taylor of Minnesota, worth $2.9 billion, who grew up on a poor rural farm where every dollar mattered. Taylor's family struggled financially, and he learned early that success required finding ways to create value that others couldn't or wouldn't provide. After graduating from high school, he worked various jobs while attending college, eventually recognizing that wedding photography and printing services represented an underserved market with high margins and repeat customers through referrals. Taylor started his business by taking out loans to buy a small wedding photography company, then expanded into printing services when he realized that businesses needed consistent, high-quality printing but were frustrated with existing providers. His company, Taylor Corporation, grew by focusing on service quality and reliability rather than competing solely on price. The business model that made Taylor wealthy was his decision to become a comprehensive printing and marketing services provider for major corporations. Today, Taylor Corporation provides printing services, marketing, and branding for companies like McDonald's, Macy's, Google, and Best Buy. Taylor admits he still prefers farming, but his ability to scale a service business created wealth that farming alone never could have generated. At position 43, we encounter T. Denny Sanford of South Dakota, worth $2.1 billion, who built his fortune through First Premier Bank by serving customers that traditional banks refused to help. Sanford's insight was that people with poor credit histories still needed financial services, and were willing to pay higher fees and interest rates for access to credit cards and banking services. This market was largely ignored by major banks because it was seen as too risky and potentially unprofitable. Sanford's breakthrough came when he realized that technology could help manage risk in ways that traditional banking couldn't. By using sophisticated data analysis and automated decision-making systems, First Premier Bank could profitably serve high-risk borrowers while maintaining acceptable loss rates. The bank specialized in offering credit cards to people with damaged credit, charging higher fees but providing access to credit that these customers couldn't get elsewhere. This business model proved incredibly profitable because the customer base was loyal and had limited alternatives. Sanford has since given away over $1 billion of his fortune, reducing his net worth from $3.4 billion in 2022 to his current level, with Sanford Health owning 43 non-profit hospitals as the primary beneficiary of his philanthropy. Position 42 features John Abel of Vermont, worth $2 billion, who co-founded Boston Scientific in 1979 after recognizing that medical device development was moving toward less invasive treatments. Abel's background was in engineering, but he saw an opportunity to create devices that would allow doctors to perform procedures with smaller incisions and shorter recovery times. The risk was enormous because medical device development requires massive upfront investment with no guarantee of regulatory approval or market acceptance. Abel's breakthrough came when Boston Scientific developed catheter-based systems that could treat conditions previously requiring major surgery. The company's success was built on understanding that hospitals would pay premium prices for devices that reduced patient recovery times and improved outcomes. Boston Scientific became dominant in minimally invasive medical devices by consistently investing in research and development while building relationships with physicians who could influence purchasing decisions. At position 41, we find Ron Corio of New Mexico, worth $1.7 billion, who founded Array Technologies in 1989 after recognizing that solar energy would become more efficient if panels could track the sun's movement throughout the day. Corio's background was in electrical engineering, but he saw that existing solar installations were losing significant energy production by remaining stationary. The risk was that solar tracking systems were complex, expensive to manufacture, and required convincing customers to pay higher upfront costs for long-term benefits. Corio's breakthrough came when he developed tracking systems that were both reliable and cost-effective to manufacture at scale. Array Technologies specialized in solar tracking systems that pivot solar panels to follow the sun, maximizing energy collection throughout the day. The company's success was built on timing, as solar energy adoption accelerated and utility companies began demanding higher efficiency from their installations. Corio served as CEO until 2022, and his wealth was realized when he sold his 38% stake for $1.2 billion before taxes shortly after taking the company public. What unites these self-made billionaires is their ability to identify market gaps that established companies couldn't or wouldn't address. Each of these insights required years of execution and significant risk to prove viable. The industries that rewarded these entrepreneurs most generously were those with high barriers to entry, but underserved customer bases. These success stories prove that massive wealth can emerge from recognizing overlooked opportunities and executing with relentless focus. But identifying gaps in existing markets represents just one path to extraordinary wealth. Some entrepreneurs go far beyond filling market needs and instead create entirely new ways of doing business that render traditional approaches obsolete. The industry disruptors who changed everything. Positions 36 through 40 showcase billionaires who completely rewrote the rules of entire industries, creating wealth that traditional approaches could never match. Position 40 belongs to Robert Faith of South Carolina, worth $5 billion, who fundamentally transformed how real estate investment and management operates globally. Faith founded Greystar in 1993 when the real estate industry was fragmented, with most companies operating regionally and focusing on single property types. Faith saw an opportunity to create a platform that could manage residential properties across multiple markets and continents using standardized systems and data-driven decision-making. Faith's innovation was treating rental apartments like a technology platform rather than individual real estate assets. Greystar developed proprietary software systems that could analyze market conditions, optimize pricing, and manage operations across thousands of properties simultaneously. This approach allowed the company to achieve economies of scale that traditional real estate operators couldn't match. Today, Greystar operates over $320 billion in real estate across 5 continents, making it the largest apartment manager in the United States and a major force in global real estate markets. The breakthrough moment came when Faith realized that technology could solve the real estate industry's biggest problems: inconsistent service quality, inefficient operations, and limited market intelligence. By creating centralized systems that could be deployed across multiple markets, Greystar could offer residents better service while generating higher returns for investors. This approach proved so successful that it forced the entire industry to adopt similar technology-driven strategies. At position 39, we find Gail Miller of Utah, worth $4.4 billion, who revolutionized the car dealership industry by treating automotive retail as a customer experience business rather than just a sales transaction. Miller and her husband Larry started with a single Toyota dealership in 1979. But Gail's vision was to create a dealership network that prioritized customer satisfaction over short-term sales pressure. Miller's disruptive approach focused on eliminating the traditional high-pressure sales tactics that customers hated about car buying. Instead of training salespeople to maximize profit per transaction, Miller's dealerships focused on building long-term relationships with customers who would return for service, financing, and future vehicle purchases. This strategy required significant upfront investment in training, facilities, and customer service systems, but it created customer loyalty that competitors couldn't match. The Miller family's dealership group became the 8th largest auto dealer network in the United States by proving that treating customers fairly could be more profitable than traditional aggressive sales tactics. Their success forced other dealership networks to adopt similar customer-focused approaches. The Millers also owned the Utah Jazz basketball team, which they sold in 2020 for $1.66 billion, demonstrating how their business principles worked across different industries. Position 38 features Susan Alfond of Maine, worth $3.8 billion, whose family's fortune came from a strategic decision that transformed how business sales could create long-term wealth. When her father Harold Alfond sold Dexter Shoe Company to Warren Buffett in 1993, he accepted payment entirely in Berkshire Hathaway stock rather than cash. This decision was considered risky at the time because it tied the family's wealth to Berkshire's performance rather than providing immediate liquidity. The Alfond family's approach disrupted the traditional model of business sales, where sellers typically wanted cash to diversify their wealth and reduce risk. Instead, they bet that Berkshire Hathaway's long-term growth would create more value than any alternative investment strategy. This decision required enormous confidence in Buffett's ability to compound wealth over decades, but it paid off spectacularly as Berkshire's stock price increased dramatically over the following 30 years. At position 37, we encounter Jonathan Nelson of Rhode Island, worth $3.4 billion, who disrupted the private equity industry by focusing on media and communications companies when most private equity firms avoided these sectors. Nelson founded Providence Equity Partners in 1989, when private equity was primarily focused on manufacturing and retail businesses that could be easily analyzed and improved through operational changes. Nelson's insight was that media and communications companies were undervalued because traditional private equity firms didn't understand their business models or growth potential. Providence Equity Partners specialized in identifying media companies that could benefit from technological upgrades, strategic partnerships, or market expansion. This approach required deep industry knowledge and the ability to work with management teams rather than simply cutting costs. The firm made strategic investments in over 170 companies, with notable successes including the sale of Poddy, the scuba diving certification company, for $700 million. Position 36 belongs to James and Thomas Duff of Mississippi, each worth $3.3 billion, who transformed their father's single-tire store into a diversified business empire that generated over $5 billion in revenue in 2024. The Duff brothers revolutionized how regional businesses could scale by creating synergies between related industries rather than focusing on a single business line. Their breakthrough came when they realized that owning businesses across the transportation and logistics supply chain could create competitive advantages that individual companies couldn't achieve. After selling their father's Southern Tire Mart in 1998, they reacquired it in 2003 and expanded Duff Capital Investors to include Southern Insurance Group, Frozen Food Express, and KLM Trucking. This vertical integration strategy allowed them to control costs, improve service quality, and capture profits at multiple levels of the supply chain. What unites these industry disruptors is their willingness to challenge fundamental assumptions about how their industries operated. Faith questioned whether real estate had to be managed locally. Miller challenged whether car sales had to be adversarial. The Alfonds proved that stock could be better than cash. Nelson showed that media companies could be excellent private equity investments, and the Duff brothers demonstrated that diversification could create competitive advantages. These innovations required years of execution and significant capital investment before proving successful. Each faced skepticism from established players who had built their businesses around existing models. But proving that disruptive approaches could work was only the beginning. The next group of billionaires faced an entirely different challenge: taking something valuable that already existed and making it exponentially more valuable. Wealth explodes. Some billionaires face a completely different challenge: proving they deserve what they inherited while building something even greater than what previous generations created. Inheriting wealth sounds like winning the lottery, but transforming a family business into a multi-billion-dollar empire requires skills that most heirs never develop. The pressure to not only preserve but multiply inherited assets creates unique challenges that self-made billionaires never face. These individuals must prove themselves worthy of their family legacy while building something even greater than what they inherited. Position 35 belongs to Tamara Gustafson of Kentucky, worth $8.3 billion, who inherited a 10% stake in Public Storage when her father B. Wayne Hughes co-founded the company in 1972. Gustafson's challenge was taking a regional self-storage business and helping transform it into a national powerhouse that would justify her massive inheritance. Public Storage became the largest self-storage company in the United States by standardizing operations across thousands of locations and using technology to optimize pricing and occupancy rates. Gustafson expanded beyond her father's original vision by diversifying into horse racing through her ownership of Spendthrift Farm, a Kentucky thoroughbred breeding operation that has produced 10 Kentucky Derby winners. This diversification demonstrated her ability to identify and develop assets outside the family's core business. Her involvement in horse racing also created valuable networking opportunities with other wealthy families and opened doors to additional investment opportunities. Today, Spendthrift Farm operates as both a passion project and a profitable business that has enhanced her overall wealth portfolio. The strategic decisions that multiplied Gustafson's inherited wealth included reinvesting public storage profits into expansion rather than taking distributions, acquiring competitor facilities in prime locations, and leveraging the company's scale to negotiate better financing terms. She also serves as a director of a foundation focused on childhood leukemia, using her wealth to create social impact while building relationships that often lead to business opportunities. At position 34, we find Les Wexner of Ohio, worth $7.9 billion, who transformed his father's small clothing store into a retail empire that dominated American shopping malls for decades. Wexner started with a $5,000 loan in 1963 to open the Limited, but his vision extended far beyond what his father had built. He recognized that women's fashion retail was fragmenting into specialized niches, and that successful brands needed to own their entire customer experience. Wexner's breakthrough came when he acquired Victoria's Secret in 1982 for $1 million and transformed it from a small lingerie boutique into a global lifestyle brand. His strategy involved creating an aspirational brand image that made intimate apparel feel glamorous rather than utilitarian. Victoria's Secret became profitable by combining high-quality products with marketing that made customers feel confident and desirable. This approach required massive investments in advertising, store design, and fashion shows that traditional lingerie retailers couldn't match. The expansion strategy that multiplied Wexner's wealth involved creating a portfolio of brands under L Brands that could share operational infrastructure while targeting different customer segments. The Limited, Express, Victoria's Secret, and Bath & Body Works all benefited from shared supply chain management, real estate expertise, and marketing capabilities. This approach allowed each brand to achieve economies of scale that independent retailers couldn't match. Position 33 features Dennis Washington of Montana, worth $7.4 billion, who overcame a challenging childhood that included contracting polio at age 8 to build Washington companies into a diversified business empire. Washington's story is unique because he started with almost nothing but inherited the work ethic and practical skills that his family developed through generations of hard labor. His father worked construction, and Washington learned early that success required being willing to take on projects that others couldn't or wouldn't complete. Washington's breakthrough came when he started Washington Construction with a $30,000 loan and focused on projects that required working in remote locations under difficult conditions. His willingness to take on challenging projects allowed him to charge premium prices and build a reputation for reliability that larger construction companies couldn't match. The business evolved into Washington Companies, which now encompasses copper mining operations, marine transportation services, and heavy equipment manufacturing. The strategic decisions that built Washington's fortune included vertical integration across related industries, acquiring distressed assets during economic downturns, and maintaining family control rather than going public. His copper mining operations provide raw materials for his manufacturing businesses, while his marine transportation services move products for his mining operations. This integration creates cost advantages and revenue streams that competitors can't replicate. At position 32, we encounter John Overdeck of New Jersey, worth $7.4 billion, who co-founded 2 Sigma, a quantitative investing firm that uses artificial intelligence to predict stock market trends. Overdeck's background in mathematics and computer science positioned him to recognize opportunities in quantitative investing that traditional fund managers missed. His approach to building wealth involved applying mathematical models to financial markets in ways that hadn't been done before. Overdex's innovation was creating investment strategies that could process massive amounts of data and identify patterns that human analysts couldn't detect. Two Sigma's success came from developing proprietary algorithms that could analyze market conditions and execute trades faster and more accurately than traditional investment approaches. The firm's assets under management reached $60 billion by focusing on systematic trading strategies rather than intuitive stock picking. Position 31 belongs to a net Lerner of Maryland, worth $5.3 billion, who provided her husband Ted Lerner with $250 in 1952 to launch Lerner Enterprises, which grew into one of the largest real estate owners in the Washington, D.C. area. Following Ted's passing in February 2023, Annette and her children inherited the business, including the Washington Nationals baseball team. Her wealth demonstrates how strategic partnerships and long-term thinking can create generational fortunes. The Lerner family's success came from recognizing that Washington, D.C.'s growth would create massive demand for commercial and residential real estate. Lerner Enterprises became profitable by acquiring land in areas that were underdeveloped but positioned for future growth. Their strategy involved holding properties for decades while the surrounding areas developed, creating enormous appreciation in property values. What distinguishes successful wealth inheritors from those who squander family fortunes is their ability to think beyond preservation and focus on multiplication. These billionaires didn't just maintain what they inherited, they used family resources as platforms for creating even greater wealth. Their success required combining inherited advantages with personal vision and execution skills that many heirs never develop. But inherited wealth and business disruption represent only part of the billionaire equation. The most successful ultra-wealthy individuals understand that where you build your empire can be just as important as what you build. The geographic advantage. Location as wealth strategy. Positions 26 through 30 reveal how strategic location choices can multiply business success by billions of dollars through tax advantages, resource access, and market positioning. Position 30 belongs to Carl Cook of Indiana, worth $9.9 billion, who leads Cook Group, a medical device manufacturer that his parents founded in their apartment in 1963. Indiana's central location provides crucial advantages for medical device companies, offering direct access to major healthcare markets across the Midwest while maintaining lower operational costs than coastal states. The state's skilled manufacturing workforce and established supplier networks allow Cook Group to produce complex medical devices efficiently while staying close to major hospital systems in Chicago, Cleveland, and other regional healthcare hubs. Cook's decision to maintain and expand operations in Indiana, rather than relocating to traditional medical device centers like California or Massachusetts, has saved the company hundreds of millions in operational costs over decades. Indiana's business-friendly regulatory environment and lower corporate tax rates allow Cook Group to reinvest more profits into research and development rather than paying excessive state taxes. The geographic advantage extends beyond costs to include talent acquisition, where Indiana's lower cost of living allows Cook Group to attract skilled engineers and medical professionals who provide better value than expensive coastal markets. Position 29 features Rick Cohen of New Hampshire, worth $9.7 billion, who owns C&S Wholesale Grocers but built most of his wealth through Symbotic, a warehouse automation firm. New Hampshire's location provides strategic advantages for logistics and distribution businesses, offering access to major Northeast markets while maintaining no state income tax and lower operational costs than neighboring states. Cohen's decision to base operations in New Hampshire allows his companies to serve grocery retailers across New England and the Mid-Atlantic region while keeping more profits than competitors based in high-tax states. Symbotic's success demonstrates how New Hampshire's location advantages compound over time. The company created automated distribution centers that solve warehouse efficiency problems for major retailers, including a partnership with Walmart that provides fully automated distribution systems. New Hampshire's skilled workforce and proximity to major universities provide the technical talent needed for advanced automation systems, while the state's business-friendly environment encourages innovation that might be discouraged in more regulated states. The tax advantages of operating in New Hampshire become particularly significant as businesses scale, with Cohen's wealth accumulation accelerated by the state's lack of personal income tax. At position 28, we find Todd Graves of Louisiana, worth $9.5 billion, who founded Raising Cane's by leveraging Louisiana's unique cultural and economic advantages. Graves started his chicken restaurant chain in Louisiana, despite facing initial skepticism from professors and local banks who didn't believe his business model would succeed. Louisiana's location provides access to high-quality chicken suppliers, distinctive regional flavors, and a cultural appreciation for fried chicken that created the perfect testing ground for his restaurant concept. Graves' success demonstrates how understanding local market preferences can create national opportunities. Louisiana's food culture provided the inspiration and initial customer base for Raising Cane's distinctive menu and brand identity. The state's lower operational costs and business-friendly environment allowed Graves to perfect his restaurant model before expanding to other markets. Today, Raising Cane's operates over 800 locations across more than 40 states, proving that regional advantages can scale nationally when executed properly. The expansion strategy that multiplied Graves' wealth involved using Louisiana as a testing ground for operational improvements that could be replicated in other markets while maintaining supply chain efficiency. Position 27 belongs to James Goodnight of North Carolina, worth $9.3 billion, who co-founded SES, an analytics software company that generates around $3 billion in annual revenue. North Carolina's Research Triangle provides unique advantages for technology companies, offering access to skilled talent from Duke University, University of North Carolina, and North Carolina State University, while maintaining lower costs than traditional tech centers like Silicon Valley or Boston. Goodnight's decision to build SAS in North Carolina, rather than relocating to established tech hubs, created competitive advantages that contributed significantly to the company's success. The state's lower cost of living allows CS to attract top talent while providing employees with better quality of life than they could achieve in expensive tech markets. The company's campus in Cary includes amenities like daycare, on-site pharmacies, and sports leagues that help retain employees and create a positive work environment. North Carolina's central location provides easier access to major corporate clients across the Southeast and Mid-Atlantic regions, while the state's agricultural economy provided early opportunities for SAS to develop analytics software for farming and agricultural data analysis. Position 26 features John Morris of Missouri, worth $9.1 billion, who built Bass Pro Shops into a retail empire by leveraging Missouri's central location and outdoor recreation culture. Morris started by selling fish from the back of his father's liquor store in Springfield, but his vision extended far beyond local fishing supplies. Missouri's location provides access to major outdoor recreation markets across the Midwest and South, while maintaining lower operational costs than coastal states. Morris' success demonstrates how understanding regional markets can create national opportunities. Missouri's outdoor recreation culture provided the perfect environment for developing and testing retail concepts that appeal to hunting, fishing, and outdoor enthusiasts. The state's central location allows Bass Pro Shops to distribute products efficiently to stores across the country, while maintaining competitive pricing that coastal retailers can't match. The expansion strategy that built Morris' wealth involved acquiring competitors like Cabela's and White River Marine Group, creating a vertically integrated outdoor recreation empire that controls supply chains and captures additional profit margins. These geographic strategies represent traditional approaches to building wealth through location advantages, but they pale in comparison to the revolutionary force that has created more billionaires than any other single economic trend in human history. The tech revolution's biggest winners. Technology billionaires represent the fastest wealth creation in modern history, with digital platforms generating fortunes that traditional businesses could never match. Position 25 belongs to Pierre Omidyar of Hawaii, worth $10 billion, who founded eBay in 1995, when most people couldn't imagine buying products from strangers on the internet. Omidyar's breakthrough came from recognizing that people wanted to buy and sell items directly with each other, but existing classified ads and auction systems were inefficient and limited by geography. His innovation was creating a platform where anyone could auction anything to anyone else, with reputation systems that built trust between strangers. eBay's success demonstrates the power of network effects in technology platforms. Every new buyer made the platform more valuable for sellers, and every new seller made it more attractive for buyers. This created exponential growth that traditional auction houses or classified ad companies couldn't replicate. The platform generated revenue through listing fees and transaction commissions, while users created all the content and inventory. By 2002, eBay had facilitated over $15 billion in transactions, proving that digital platforms could scale far beyond physical businesses. At position 24, we find Ernest Garcia II of Arizona, worth $16.8 billion, who transformed the used car industry by recognizing that automotive retail was ready for technological disruption. Garcia built Drive Time Automotive into the fourth largest used car retailer in the United States, but his real breakthrough came through his involvement with Carvana, an online car buying platform that eliminated traditional dealership experiences. Garcia's innovation addressed fundamental problems in used car sales. Customers hated visiting dealerships, pricing was opaque, and the buying process was time-consuming and stressful. Carvana created a completely digital car buying experience where customers could research, finance, and purchase vehicles online, then have them delivered or picked up from automated car vending machines. This approach required massive investments in technology infrastructure, logistics systems, and inventory management that traditional dealerships couldn't match. Position 23 features Harry Stein of Iowa, worth $10.2 billion, who applied technology to agriculture by developing seed varieties that dramatically increased crop yields. Stein's approach combined traditional plant breeding with advanced genetic techniques to create corn and soybean varieties that produced more crops per acre while requiring fewer resources. His success demonstrates how technology can revolutionize traditional industries that seem resistant to innovation. Stein Seed's breakthrough came from recognizing that farmers needed seed varieties optimized for specific growing conditions, rather than general-purpose varieties that worked adequately everywhere. The company developed proprietary breeding programs that created seeds customized for different soil types, climate conditions, and farming practices. This specialization required massive research and development investments and sophisticated data analysis capabilities that traditional seed companies couldn't match. At position 22, we encounter the Cathy family of Georgia, worth $10.9 billion collectively, who built Chick-fil-A by applying technology and systematic processes to fast food operations. While Chick-fil-A might not seem like a technology company, the Cathy family's success came from developing operational systems and supply chain technologies that allowed consistent quality and rapid expansion across thousands of locations. The Cathy family's technological innovation focused on solving operational challenges that limited fast food growth, maintaining consistent food quality, training employees efficiently, and managing supply chains across multiple states. They developed proprietary systems for food preparation, inventory management, and employee training that created competitive advantages over traditional fast food chains. Chick-fil-A's expansion strategy demonstrates how systematic application of technology and processes can create scalable business models in conventional industries. Position 21 belongs to David Duffield of California, worth $11.4 billion, who co-founded Workday, a cloud-based human resources software company that revolutionized how large organizations manage their workforce. Duffield's breakthrough came from recognizing that traditional HR software was too complex and inflexible for modern businesses that needed to adapt quickly to changing conditions. Workday's success demonstrates how cloud computing technology enabled completely new business models that traditional software companies couldn't match. Instead of selling expensive software licenses that required lengthy implementation processes, Workday offered subscription-based software that could be deployed quickly and updated continuously. This approach provided predictable, recurring revenue while reducing customer implementation costs and risks. What separates technology wealth from traditional business wealth is the exponential growth potential that comes from network effects and scalability. Physical businesses face constraints like manufacturing capacity, geographic limitations, and linear growth patterns. Technology platforms can serve millions of users simultaneously without proportional increases in costs, creating wealth multiplication opportunities that traditional businesses can't achieve. The network effects that drive technology wealth create winner-take-all market dynamics where successful platforms become increasingly valuable as they attract more users. This creates wealth concentration that exceeds what's possible in traditional industries, where success typically requires continuous investment in physical assets and operational capacity. But technology platforms, despite their massive wealth creation potential, still depend on fundamental resources to function. The servers need electricity, the devices require rare earth minerals, and the global economy that supports digital innovation runs on energy that someone has to control and distribute. The energy and resource titans. These resource titans control the materials that keep entire economies running, creating wealth that survives market crashes and technological disruptions. Position 20 belongs to Harold Hamm of Oklahoma, worth $18.5 billion, who transformed from the 13th child of a sharecropping family into one of America's most influential oil executives. Hamm's journey started with a trucking company he founded to serve oil drilling operations, giving him direct exposure to the industry's operational challenges and opportunities. His breakthrough came when he recognized that horizontal drilling combined with hydraulic fracturing could unlock oil reserves that traditional vertical drilling couldn't access economically. Hamm founded Continental Resources in 1967 and became one of the first operators to use fracking as a systematic extraction method rather than an experimental technique. This innovation revolutionized the entire oil industry by making previously uneconomical oil reserves profitable to extract. Continental Resources now produces 400,000 barrels of oil and gas per day, generating billions in revenue from fields that were considered worthless before fracking technology matured. The regulatory challenges Hamm navigated required building relationships with state and federal agencies, while proving that fracking could be conducted safely and profitably. At position 19, we find Ray Lee Hunt of Texas, worth $19.2 billion, who inherited Hunt Oil Company from his father, but expanded the family business into a diversified energy and real estate empire. Hunt's strategy involved using oil profits to acquire assets across multiple sectors, reducing dependence on volatile energy markets while maintaining exposure to long-term oil and gas profits. His expansion beyond oil included significant real estate developments in Dallas and other major cities, creating recurring income from commercial properties that complemented cyclical oil revenues. Hunt's company developed iconic projects like Reunion Tower and other landmark buildings that became symbols of Dallas's economic growth. This real estate strategy provided stable cash flows during oil price downturns while creating additional wealth through property appreciation. The strategic decisions that multiplied Hunt's inherited wealth included international expansion into oil exploration and production in countries like Yemen, where political risks were offset by potentially massive returns. Position 18 features Forrest Preston of Tennessee, worth $19.5 billion, who built Life Care Centers of America into the largest privately owned nursing home chain in the United States. Preston's approach to healthcare real estate created a unique model where his company owns both the facilities and the operations, providing multiple revenue streams from a single asset base. This vertical integration strategy reduced costs while improving service quality. Preston's success demonstrates how healthcare infrastructure can generate resource-like wealth through controlling essential services that communities need regardless of economic conditions. Life Care Centers operates over 200 facilities across 27 states, creating a network effect where operational expertise and purchasing power compound across multiple locations. The regulatory navigation that built Preston's wealth required working with Medicare, Medicaid, and state health departments while maintaining profitability in a heavily regulated industry. At position 17, we encounter George Bishop of Oklahoma, worth $20.3 billion, who built a fortune through oil and gas exploration using advanced geological analysis and strategic land acquisition. Bishop's approach involved identifying potential oil reserves through sophisticated geological surveys and securing drilling rights before competitors recognized the opportunities. His success required combining technical expertise with strategic thinking about long-term energy market trends. Bishop's wealth creation strategy involved building a diversified portfolio of oil and gas properties across multiple states, reducing dependence on any single field or region. His company developed expertise in different geological formations, allowing it to adapt drilling techniques for various subsurface conditions. The market volatility that comes with resource wealth required Bishop to develop hedging strategies and financial management systems that could maintain operations during oil price downturns. Position 16 belongs to Danine Avara of Texas, worth $20.8 billion, who inherited a stake in Kinder Morgan but expanded her wealth through strategic investments in energy infrastructure and pipeline operations. Avara's approach involved recognizing that energy transportation and storage often provide more stable returns than extraction operations, which face commodity price volatility and operational risks. Avara's wealth multiplication strategy focused on midstream energy operations that generate revenue from moving and storing oil and gas, rather than just producing it. This approach provided exposure to energy market growth while reducing direct exposure to commodity price fluctuations. Her investments in pipeline infrastructure created recurring revenue streams from long-term contracts with energy producers who needed reliable transportation networks. What separates successful resource billionaires from failed ventures is their ability to think beyond just finding valuable deposits. These individuals built comprehensive business systems that could extract, transport, and sell resources profitably while managing regulatory compliance and market volatility. Their success required combining technical expertise with strategic planning and financial management skills that many resource companies lack. The stability of resource wealth comes from controlling materials that societies need regardless of economic conditions. Oil, gas, and energy infrastructure provide essential services that create predictable demand even during recessions. This stability allows resource billionaires to maintain their wealth and acquire additional assets during market downturns when other industries struggle. Resource control represents one of the most fundamental paths to massive wealth because modern economies depend on energy and raw materials that can't be easily substituted. While these billionaires built their fortunes by controlling what powers our physical world, another group achieved similar success by controlling something equally essential to modern life. Information and entertainment control creates wealth that extends far beyond traditional business models, shaping how entire populations think and spend their time. Position 15 belongs to Michael Bloomberg of New York, worth $104.7 billion. Who transformed financial information into a media empire that reaches far beyond Wall Street. Bloomberg co-founded Bloomberg LP in 1981 after being laid off from Salomon Brothers, recognizing that financial professionals needed better access to real-time market data and analysis. His breakthrough came from understanding that information has value only when it's delivered faster and more accurately than competitors can provide. Bloomberg's innovation was creating integrated systems that combined data feeds, news reporting, and analytical tools into single platforms that financial professionals couldn't work without. The Bloomberg terminal became essential equipment for traders, analysts, and portfolio managers because it provided comprehensive market information that wasn't available elsewhere. This created a subscription-based revenue model where customers paid premium prices for access to essential business intelligence. The expansion strategy that built Bloomberg's wealth involved diversifying beyond financial data into news media, radio, and television broadcasting. Bloomberg Television and Bloomberg Radio created additional revenue streams while reinforcing the company's position as a trusted source for financial information. His media properties now reach millions of consumers beyond the financial industry, creating advertising revenue and brand recognition that extends far beyond the original terminal business. Bloomberg owns 88% of Bloomberg LP, maintaining control over strategic decisions while benefiting from all profit growth. At position 14, we find Miriam Adelson of Nevada, worth $27.6 billion, who built a fortune through Las Vegas Sands Corporation, demonstrating how entertainment venues can create media-like wealth through controlling customer experiences and engagement. Adelson's background as a physician specializing in addiction issues provided unique insights into consumer behavior and risk management that proved valuable in casino operations. The Adelson family's success came from recognizing that modern casinos needed to become comprehensive entertainment destinations rather than just gambling facilities. Las Vegas Sands properties like the Venetian and Marina Bay Sands in Singapore created immersive experiences that kept customers engaged for extended periods while generating revenue from multiple sources including gaming, dining, shopping, and entertainment. Adelson's wealth multiplication strategy involved international expansion into markets like Macau and Singapore, where regulatory environments allowed casino operations to serve growing middle-class populations. These international properties generated higher revenue per square foot than domestic casinos because they served markets with less competition and higher spending customers. Position 13 features Rupert Murdoch of New York, worth $23.8 billion, who built News Corporation into a global media empire that spans newspapers, television networks, and digital platforms. Murdoch's approach involved acquiring established media properties and transforming them into more profitable operations through operational improvements and strategic positioning. Murdoch's breakthrough came from recognizing that media companies could generate higher returns by owning both content creation and distribution channels. His acquisition of the Wall Street Journal, the Times of London, Fox Broadcasting, and other properties created a portfolio of media assets that could share content and cross-promote each other. This integration strategy reduced costs while expanding audience reach across multiple platforms. Position 12 belongs to Oprah Winfrey of California, worth $2.8 billion, who transformed her television career into a multimedia empire that includes magazine publishing, cable networks, and digital content platforms. Winfrey's success demonstrates how personal branding can create sustainable wealth across multiple entertainment and media ventures. Winfrey's wealth creation strategy involved leveraging her television success to launch complementary businesses that could benefit from her established audience and brand recognition. Her magazine O, the Oprah magazine, and television network OWN created additional revenue streams while reinforcing her position as a trusted source for lifestyle and personal development content. The cross-promotion between her various media properties created synergies that increased the value of each individual venture. At position 11, we encounter George Lucas of California, worth $5.1 billion, who revolutionized entertainment media by maintaining ownership of his creative properties while building distribution networks that maximized long-term value. Lucas's approach with the Star Wars franchise demonstrated how content creators could build wealth through controlling intellectual property rights rather than just receiving upfront payments. Lucas's breakthrough came from negotiating to retain merchandising rights and sequel rights for Star Wars, decisions that seemed unimportant at the time but created billions in ongoing revenue. His strategy involved building Lucasfilm into a comprehensive entertainment company that could develop, produce, and distribute content across multiple platforms and formats. What separates successful media billionaires from traditional entertainment figures is their ability to create multiple revenue streams from single content properties. These individuals built comprehensive business systems that could monetize content across various platforms, formats, and time periods. Their success required combining creative vision with strategic business planning that maximized long-term value rather than just immediate profits. The power of owning both content creation and distribution channels becomes evident when examining how these media empires generate revenue. Companies that control the entire value chain from content development to audience delivery can capture profits at every stage while maintaining quality control and strategic flexibility. This integration creates competitive advantages that pure content creators or distributors cannot match. Media control translates into cultural influence that extends far beyond financial returns, but even the most successful media empires pale in comparison to the wealth generated by understanding what drives people to make purchasing decisions on a massive scale. The retail and consumer empire builders. These retail titans mastered the art of serving millions of customers profitably, while competitors struggled with razor-thin margins and brutal competition. At position 10, we find John Menard Jr. of Wisconsin, worth $21.4 billion, who built Menards into a home improvement empire that competes directly with Home Depot and Lowe's while generating about $13 billion in annual sales. Menard's approach differs from his larger competitors by focusing on smaller markets where he can dominate local construction and home improvement spending. His stores typically serve markets that Home Depot and Lowe's consider too small to justify their larger format stores. Menard's breakthrough came from recognizing that contractors and serious DIY customers needed different products and services than casual weekend shoppers. His stores carry specialized construction materials, tools, and supplies that larger retailers often don't stock because they serve broader customer bases. This specialization allows Menards to charge higher margins while providing products that contractors can't easily find elsewhere. The supply chain innovations that built Menard's wealth include owning manufacturing facilities that produce lumber, concrete, and other construction materials sold in his stores. This vertical integration reduces costs while ensuring consistent product availability during supply shortages that affect competitors. His company operates sawmills, concrete plants, and other manufacturing facilities that supply both Menard's stores and external customers. Position 9 belongs to Jacqueline Mars of Virginia, worth $40.2 billion, who inherited her stake in Mars Incorporated but expanded the company's reach beyond candy into pet food and other consumer products. Mars worked for the family company for 20 years before inheriting her one-third ownership stake, giving her direct experience with the operational challenges of scaling consumer product businesses. Mars Incorporated demonstrates how consumer brand loyalty can create sustainable competitive advantages across multiple product categories. The company's success with candy brands like M&M's, Snickers, and Twix created expertise in consumer marketing, distribution, and product development that transferred successfully to pet food through brands like Pedigree and Whiskas. This diversification strategy reduced dependence on any single product category while leveraging shared operational capabilities. The global expansion strategy that multiplied Mars' family wealth involved adapting successful American consumer products for international markets while maintaining consistent quality and brand recognition. Mars products are now sold in over 80 countries, creating revenue streams that benefit from currency diversification and growing middle-class populations in developing markets. At position 8, we encounter Jim Walton of Arkansas, worth $106.9 billion, who represents the youngest heir to the Walmart fortune while serving as chairman of Arvest Bank Group. Walton's wealth comes from his stake in Walmart, which has become the world's largest employer with over 2.1 million workers and demonstrates how retail success at massive scale creates unprecedented wealth concentration. Walmart's dominance in retail comes from supply chain innovations that reduce costs across every aspect of operations. The company's distribution network, inventory management systems, and supplier relationships create cost advantages that smaller retailers can't match. These efficiencies allow Walmart to offer lower prices while maintaining profitable margins, creating a competitive moat that protects market share even during economic downturns. The scale advantages that built Walton family wealth include negotiating power with suppliers that comes from purchasing billions of dollars in merchandise annually. Walmart's size allows it to demand lower wholesale prices, better payment terms, and exclusive product arrangements that smaller retailers can't access. This purchasing power creates cost advantages that compound across millions of transactions. However, Walmart's business model also demonstrates the social costs of retail success at this scale. According to Forbes, about $6.2 billion is spent annually on public assistance like food stamps, Medicaid, and subsidized housing for Walmart employees. Many of the company's workers earn low wages, which results in taxpayers footing the bill for public assistance programs that supplement employee incomes. Position 7 features Mackenzie Scott of Washington, worth $38.8 billion, who received her wealth through divorce settlement with Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, but has since become known for revolutionary approaches to philanthropy and wealth distribution. Scott's fortune demonstrates how retail and e-commerce success can create wealth that extends far beyond traditional business operations. Scott's wealth originated from Amazon's transformation of retail through e-commerce innovation that eliminated geographical constraints on customer access. Amazon's marketplace model allowed millions of sellers to reach customers worldwide, while Amazon collected fees from transactions, advertising, and logistics services. This platform approach created network effects where more sellers attracted more buyers, and vice versa. Position 6 belongs to Warren Buffett of Nebraska, worth $146.3 billion, who built his fortune through Berkshire Hathaway's investments in consumer-focused companies like Coca-Cola, Apple, and numerous retail businesses. Buffett's approach demonstrates how understanding consumer behavior can create wealth through strategic investments rather than operational management. Buffett's investment strategy focuses on companies with strong consumer brands that create pricing power and customer loyalty. His investments in Coca-Cola, Apple, and other consumer companies reflect his belief that products people use daily and repeatedly offer more predictable returns than cyclical or technology-dependent businesses. This consumer-focused approach has generated consistent returns over decades. What separates successful retail billionaires from failed ventures is their ability to create operational advantages that competitors can't easily replicate. These individuals built comprehensive business systems that could serve millions of customers while maintaining cost structures that allowed profitable operations. Their success required combining consumer insights with supply chain innovations, technology investments, and strategic positioning that created sustainable competitive advantages. The supply chain innovations that enabled retail success at billionaire scale include distribution networks, inventory management systems, and supplier relationships that reduce costs while improving service quality. These operational advantages compound over time, creating cost structures that allow successful retailers to maintain profitable operations even during price wars or economic downturns. But even these massive retail empires, with their billions in revenue and millions of customers, represent just the foundation level of American wealth concentration. The individuals who occupy the final 5 positions control resources and influence that operate on an entirely different scale. The top 5: wealth beyond comprehension. These 5 positions represent wealth accumulation that operates beyond normal economic understanding, with combined resources exceeding the GDP of most nations. At position 5, we find Warren Buffett of Nebraska, worth $151.8 billion, who built his fortune through Berkshire Hathaway by identifying undervalued companies and holding them for decades. Buffett's approach to wealth creation focuses on companies with strong competitive advantages and predictable cash flows, allowing him to compound returns over time through patient capital allocation. His investment philosophy has generated average annual returns of over 20% for more than 5 decades, demonstrating how systematic value investing can create unprecedented wealth. Buffett's wealth continues growing because Berkshire Hathaway's portfolio includes stakes in companies like Apple, Coca-Cola, and American Express that generate billions in annual dividends and capital appreciation. His company's cash reserves exceed $300 billion, providing flexibility to make massive investments during market downturns when other investors lack capital. This financial strength allows Buffett to acquire entire companies or large equity stakes at favorable prices when markets become distressed. The global impact of Buffett's decisions extends beyond investment returns to include his influence on corporate governance and business practices worldwide. Position 4 belongs to Larry Ellison of California, worth $197 billion, who built Oracle into a database software empire that powers much of the world's digital infrastructure. Ellison's wealth comes from his 35% stake in Oracle, plus his ownership of Hawaiian island Lanai and significant real estate holdings. His company's database software runs critical systems for banks, governments, and major corporations worldwide, creating recurring revenue streams that grow as digital transformation accelerates. Ellison's strategic decisions created wealth through recognizing that database software would become essential infrastructure for all businesses as they digitized their operations. Oracle's dominance in enterprise database management created a market position that generates billions in annual licensing fees and maintenance contracts. His company's cloud computing services now compete directly with Amazon and Microsoft, positioning Oracle to benefit from the ongoing shift to cloud-based business operations. The business model that built Ellison's fortune demonstrates how controlling essential technology infrastructure creates sustainable competitive advantages that are difficult for competitors to replicate. At position 3, we encounter Jeff Bezos of Washington, worth $215 billion, who founded Amazon and transformed how people shop, work, and consume entertainment. Bezos stepped down as CEO in July 2021, but remains chairman while focusing on Blue Origin, his space exploration company. His wealth stems from his Amazon stake plus investments in space technology, media properties, and real estate across multiple states. Amazon's success created entirely new industries, including cloud computing through Amazon Web Services, which now generates over $90 billion in annual revenue. The company's marketplace model enabled millions of small businesses to reach global customers, while Amazon collected fees from transactions, advertising, and logistics services. This platform approach created network effects where more sellers attracted more buyers, generating exponential growth that traditional retailers couldn't match. Bezos' wealth grows at rates that outpace entire economies because Amazon's businesses operate in markets experiencing rapid digital transformation. Position 2 features Mark Zuckerberg of California, worth $216 billion, who founded Facebook at age 19 and built Meta Platforms into a social media empire that reaches over 3 billion users worldwide. Zuckerberg owns about 13.68% of Meta Platforms, which generates revenue through advertising sales across Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. His wealth reflects the massive value created by platforms that monetize human attention and social connections. Zuckerberg's business decisions created wealth by recognizing that social networking would become a primary form of human communication and entertainment. Meta's platforms collect detailed data about user preferences and behaviors, allowing advertisers to target specific audiences with unprecedented precision. This creates advertising revenue that grows as user engagement increases and businesses shift marketing budgets from traditional media to digital platforms. The global impact of Zuckerberg's platforms extends beyond advertising revenue to include influence on political processes, social movements, and cultural trends worldwide. At position 1, we find Elon Musk of Texas, worth $342 billion, whose wealth comes from his ownership stakes in Tesla, SpaceX, and other ventures including social media platform X. Musk's fortune represents the largest accumulation of individual wealth in human history, exceeding the market capitalization of most Fortune 500 companies. His businesses span electric vehicles, space exploration, social media, and brain-computer interfaces, creating a portfolio that could benefit from multiple technological revolutions. Tesla's success created wealth by proving that electric vehicles could be profitable and desirable, forcing the entire automotive industry to accelerate their transition to electric powertrains. The company's market capitalization reflects not just current vehicle sales but expectations for future growth in electric vehicles, autonomous driving, and energy storage systems. Tesla's manufacturing innovations and software capabilities create competitive advantages that traditional automakers struggle to replicate. SpaceX demonstrates how private space exploration can create commercial opportunities that governments cannot pursue efficiently. The company's reusable rocket technology reduced launch costs by over 90%, making space-based business activities economically viable for the first time. SpaceX's Starlink satellite internet service generates recurring revenue, while his company's NASA contracts provide steady cash flows that support continued innovation in space technology. Musk's wealth continues growing because his companies operate in markets experiencing exponential technological change. Electric vehicle adoption, space commercialization, and artificial intelligence all represent massive market opportunities that could generate trillions in economic value over the coming decades. His willingness to invest in multiple high-risk, high-reward ventures positions him to benefit from whichever technologies prove most transformative. What $300+ billion in wealth represents defies comprehension because it exceeds the resources available to most governments and international organizations. This concentration of capital provides Musk with the ability to fund entire industries, influence global technology development, and pursue projects that could reshape human civilization. The wealth accumulated by these 5 individuals alone creates economic influence that extends far beyond traditional business operations into areas that affect millions of people worldwide. These rankings reveal how 50 individuals accumulated more wealth than the bottom 50% of Americans combined, with their combined fortunes exceeding $2 trillion in 2025. This concentration of financial power demonstrates how business innovation, strategic thinking, and market timing can create unprecedented wealth accumulation that shapes global markets and influences political decisions worldwide. What makes these stories particularly fascinating is how different strategies led to similar outcomes. Some built fortunes through technological innovation, others through geographic advantages or inherited businesses they transformed into larger empires. Each approach offers lessons about identifying opportunities, managing risk, and scaling operations that could benefit anyone building their own business or investment portfolio.